Hello everyone, this is part 3 of What If Naruto is the Perfect Assassin, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
They burst through the doors which clattered loudly against the walls, not even bothering to consider the sleeping Ma waiting in the room. He jolted from his sleep and barely missed Kix's side with the knife that he slept with when he wasn't in his room. Kizu easily sidestepped out of the way before calmly putting his hand on his master's shoulder. "Oi master, it's just Narelle and I." The tired man slowly focused his eyes on the trio before visibly brightening. Naruto. Welcome bar. They knew that he wouldn't have missed it. He was the master for a reason. He didn't miss things that went on or looked out of place, and Naruto's silver-banded eyes were extremely out of place. His steely gaze turned their focus from Naruto to his other two pupils who met it head-on, unflinching. What happened to Naruto? Narelle clutched the blonde teen's arm and held on like he was going to be taken away. Kizu stepped up boldly. "It's some sort of brainwashing technique. It would have worked better if Naruto wasn't so headstrong, but, of course, he isn't right now. He has this sort of split personality." "Couldn't have said it better myself." Phantom smirked back at the confidence he had in his friends. "I doubt you could. Hey, you're Me, remember?" That shut both of them up as the realization hit them. Their attention was reverted to the fact that Ma was studying him carefully, and for every few seconds that he said nothing, Narelle would squeeze his arm. It took him forever to realize that they had asked him a question. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" "My mind was elsewhere." Ma sighed and turned to his gaze to Narelle. "Internal conversation." She nodded to his statement. "What I asked was who is the search persona that is in search control." Naruto. Phantom made an "oh" shape with his mouth. "Phantom of Death. Alright, that's a pretty obvious choice for Ahsoka." Ma sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "Do you remember anything about how he died?" "I can't." His answer came so fast that Ma was taken aback and remained silent. Kizu spoke for him. "What do you mean by that?" "Naruto should remember exactly what happened, right?" "I mean what I said, and Naruto does remember, but whenever I try to get the memories I just can't." Narelle released his arm and looked at her search brother and then back to Naruto. "Phantom. I'm sorry, I really wish I could help more than that, but it doesn't work out well." "Hey man, it's okay. Knowing the three people in front of you, they'll think of something." "No, it's not okay if I try to remember what you remember then." "I said don't worry about it, okay? If they ask you to remember, then just try and they'll take care of the rest." "Hello. Wakey wakey." Phantom snapped his mind back to the hand that was being waved in front of his face. "Huh, what?" The others just sighed and looked at each other. They would have to get used to these conversations. "Will you try to remember for us?" "I don't know, it's not exactly the best feeling when I try to remember what happened." "You should at least try for us." He nodded as the room fell silent and no one moved to fill the void this time. "Gaara, will you talk to me?" Temari followed her little search brother through the hallways of their large estate. "You just stopped talking to anyone for 2 weeks now." She stepped in front of the redhead, stopping him dead. Temari studied his expression closely. Nothing on the outside had changed that much, except his eyes. They looked like he was deep in thought, all the time. "Not now, Temari." He gently moved her aside. "I need some time to think." He looked away from his sister and kept walking before turning onto a connecting hallway. Kankuro was just walking the opposite direction of said hallway and stopped next to his sister. At least he finally said something, even though it was just to brush you off. His sister's fist came down hard on his head. Idiot. He hasn't spoken to anyone unless he absolutely had to in forever. It started about a month ago with no warning and no known cause. Then when he seems to get his mind away from whatever it was, Ninja in Konoha sends message that they've seen Naruto, and then they mention some strange assassin helping him out. She continued on, but Kankuro already heard this lecture. The fact that there was a strange assassin that was helping Konoha stuck out to him. "Look, Temari, Gaara has always been a quiet guy and the people here don't notice any difference. The only reason we notice a difference because we're family and he opens up to us just a bit more. He started to continue on his way, he'll tell us if he wants to and at his own time." "Alright. He didn't even bother to see her reaction before opening a door and walking though, not making a sound. Sasuke. Sakura was resting her head on his chest while she listened to his steady heart follow his breathing. They were sitting on the couch and were supposed to be watching a movie, but neither were interested. His hand rested on the back of her hand, stroking her hair while the other wrapped around her waist, and she put one hand around his neck and the other drawing small circles on his arm that was around her. When do you think Naruto will come home? His hand slipped away from her form and tilted her chin back so that she had to gaze into the onyx eyes. He said that, no, he promised that he would be back soon. We have to trust him. Sakura, do you trust him? Yes, but do you trust me? She moved back, eyes swimming with confusion. Of course I trust you, Sasuke-kun. Then trust me on trusting Naruto, okay? The dark orbs that were his eyes smoldered and her aqua eyes returned the emotions. They stayed silent, comforting each other with it until it didn't satisfy and their lips took over. Phantom Naruto held his hands to his head, groaning in pain. He rubbed furiously, trying to rid himself of the terrible sensation. The last question they asked him had brought this on. He tried to remember what the answer was, but now he couldn't even remember what the question was. Narelle was trying to help by using medical jutsu on his neck and the back of his head, but this pain was deeper. He took deep breaths and gulped harshly as he fought down the nausea. He slowly removed his hands from his temples and looked up to the people standing before him. Ma was standing across from him with Kizuna leaning against the wall trying to stay close to Narelle and to catch Phantom Naruto in case he passed out again. The image got clearer and Narelle's silken voice came softly to his ear. Are you all right now? He nodded slowly and swallowed again. Ma raised an eyebrow. You sure? 'Cause you look like something a wolf mutt crapped out. Ugh, I feel like crap. So, try to look back and tell exactly how Ahsoka captured you. He gulped down more air and slowly pried the mental lock that Kizuna helped him visualize. Slowly the imaginary lock slipped away from the tight position and the headache returned as it throbbed with his heart rate. The memory was coming back slowly. He was beginning to see bits and pieces that were becoming clearer. He felt the hand on the back of his neck get colder until it was like ice. He felt the first pop and sheen of sweat broke out across his body. A fuzzy, unclear image flashed in front of his vision. Slowly, so painfully slow, the image began to clear up and it began to quake and ripple. Naruto, stop. Kizuna grabbed the blonde's shoulder and yelled into his ears. No wait, Stop. You have to stop. Ma's voice seemed so close but so distant, but Naruto continued to press the memories into Phantom's waiting mind. I can see too. Pain erupted through his whole body as the image strained to stay complete and clear. He felt hot and cold at the same time as he felt Kizuna holding his shoulders. Two people. His groan began a piercing scream of agony as the image burned itself into place and he felt himself falling. The floor was not inviting as it knocked the wind and sense from his being, but it paled in comparison to the fire-like agony in his skull as it shot and coursed throughout his body. Voices were all around him but their words were incoherent as the image came on full-blown. Phantom was impressed. It was an entire flashback. Crud. I was so distracted with trying to get myself in check that I didn't bother to even look where I was going or sense the chakra signatures. Naruto. Sasuke took a step forward and Naruto took two back, shocking them both. Naruto. It's just us, we won't take you against your will. Yes you would, he said matter-of-factly with a smile on his face. Yeah you're right, we would. Sakura said jokingly, mimicking his smile. It's alright Naruto, we won't take you with us, but could you at least spare some time to talk? Naruto's eyes widened as he thought it over before he smiled, gently this time. Sure guys. Time lapse. So you're one test away from becoming an assassin's apprentice, but you're not sure that you want it. No, I want it. Heck, I want it a lot. But I'm not sure about the last test. The others made an "oh" shape with their mouths and the next few minutes were silent. Sue, you say there are both boys and girls at the center. Naruto raised one eyebrow and nodded slowly. Have any of them caught your eye? Naruto smiled. Maybe. Aha. Thought so. I expected you to have someone and I'm sure that one look at you and she won't be able to say no. Naruto blushed as he looked down and nudged the dirt with his toe. Oh come on. That's not fair, you can't just say that and then not answer anything else. Sakura was freaking and Sasuke smiled at her rage before turning to the blonde. So, both looked at him. Do you like her? A lot. Is she pretty? What's her name? Naruto was blushing heavily now, and even in the fading moonlight they could finally see it. Or Naruto. Sakura used a sing-song voice. You're blushing. What? No, I'm not. Deny it all you want, but we can see it. Sasuke was laughing as he said it, but tried to hold it back. Sakura, however, didn't attempt to hide it at all. Her name is Narelle and I do like her a lot, a lot. Sasuke and Sakura stopped as they Naruto's face changed from regular old Naruto to something that had never seen before. She is the most beautiful person I have ever met. She has long brown hair that sways when she walks and deep purple eyes that sparkle when she smiles. Her smile and laugh are both amazing to see and hear, not to mention contagious, and when she smiles at me I forget everything else but her and how I want to keep her safe. Naruto looked up and saw that Sasuke was shocked and Sakura was smiling sweetly. Sounds like the biggest crush you've ever had. Sasuke said with a chuckle. We're dating. The raven-haired boy stopped. She's been my girlfriend for a while now. Sakura's smile got even bigger. Then this is way more than just a crush, stupid. Naruto looked at her quizzically. Then what is it? How do you feel when you kiss? Naruto raised his eyebrows and they noticed that his headband was missing. I feel like there's no other place I should be, and there's no one else I should be with. Both of his friends were looking at him and Sasuke spoke up. This is serious. Naruto, this isn't just, I like you, this is more like, I love you. Naruto looked down and started blushing again. Naruto. I think you guys are right. They both gaped at him. I think I'm in love with Narelle. His friends just stared at him and he took a deep breath as the realization of this hit him. He never felt this before except on few missions with Narelle. They were up late and Narelle managed him into a heated makeout session. Hee hee. Good times, good times. Naruto paused within his mind and groaned. Phantom felt the wave of nausea and pain hit him. The image wavered along with the pain increasing, but he strained to keep it in focus. Naruto, you in there? He was brought back a sharp rapping sensation on his skull. Huh. The rapping continued. Okay, Sasuke. He didn't stop, but the Uchiha gave him the rare smile that he has only seen a handful of times before. It meant a lot to get that smile. He brushed the hand away and Sasuke gave him a laugh as he sidestepped Naruto's jab. Sakura's rubbing off on you, Dobe. You smile and laugh now. Sasuke's classic scowl returned to his face, but there was a smile waiting behind it. Hee hee, you almost seem human. Sakura joined in as Sasuke's fist popped and shook where he held it. Sakura playfully punched her boyfriend's arm. Oh, Sasuke-kun, he's just messing around with you. You're war more than human for me. She purred seductively as Sasuke pulled her body flush against his own. Their passion was stopped by Naruto shushing them. Aqua and Onyx eyes burned their warnings towards the blonde, but they were stopped by his expression. Alert and on edge. The old Naruto they knew was gone. The assassin that he had become slid into place. He mouthed, someone is here. Don't move, to his friends whom he considered his search brother and sister. My master wants the blonde, but I'll kill the Uchiha and probably have some fun with the girl before taking her out first. The two watched in awe as their friend's shimmering eyes became something dark and cold. When he spoke, his voice was colder than his eyes and the killer intent flooding the entire vicinity. A predator is stalking my friends, I'll think I'll hunt it down. The blonde began to fade into the inky shadows of the surrounding the trio. A few seconds went by and suddenly Sasuke ducked under an assassin that was thrown across the clearing. In the bright moonlight they could see the man's terrified expression as he flew through the air. They heard a crash and the man's angered growl. Naruto laughed at this. You call that a growl? Weak, insignificant man. Sasuke shuddered and looked at Sakura, who nodded. This chakra? Naruto was not happy and he was going to make good use of something else that was also usually unhappy. They heard the man get up. On second thought, maybe he'll just hold you down and kill them while you watch. He began laughing as he stepped into the light, but he would never finish that laugh. His eyes burning blood red with hatred, intent to kill as Naruto's live form flashed by and a double-edged sword quickly decapitated the hysterical man. The couple stood, frozen in place as their friend slowly turned away from where the dead man's blood had sprayed him. The man's partners had tried their hardest to remain hidden, but seeing their leader fall down, then realizing who the killer was, It drove some to adrenaline-induced rage and others to whimpering cowards. Let's kill. Tear him down. Limb. Are you kidding? That's PACT's demon assassin. The best one in the whole group. I've heard he's better than the leader himself. Sakura gasped when she saw Naruto pull out another blade that was hidden on his back. You aren't assassins. He twirled the two blades with obvious skill, and when he stopped they were one. The double-edged sword was in front and the back blade was serrated with vicious-looking teeth. Both were slightly curved at the end, giving Naruto something to use when he wanted to grab. Allow me to show you the power of a true assassin. His form seemed to appear like static as he demonstrated an improved form of his father's jutsu. Screams of death and pain filled the dark, silent air. Their echoes reached no one's ears but those they had arrived with and those they were sent to take out. Sakura buried her face into Sasuke's chest as she saw the first few arms and other limbs cross the moonlight path. The last man tried to run but quickly realized there was no escape. The red eyes met his as Naruto walked into the clearing. He was in no hurry. My master doesn't want to kill you, he sent for you. He wants you to join him. Naruto's eyes narrowed. You threatened to kill my friends, and that's worse. The blonde's eyes went back to normal as he got into a low stance. The blades split into the two parts without a sound. One went back behind Naruto and he turned it so the blade ran against his arm. The other he held in a position that ran across his face. He rocked back onto his right heel and the blades became covered with wind chakra. Dark Blade's art. His voice was low in a barely audible whisper. Moon Dance of the Black Knight. He shot forward and a sickening scream filled the air as the man's right arm came off. Naruto reappeared in front of his friends, blades ready to go again. Tell me who your master is. I wouldn't tell you, scum. Look what you did to me. Naruto rocked back again and disappeared. The man's left arm joined the right one and he appeared again with his friends. You should really be more concerned about what I'm going to do to you. You should be glad. Normally all your limbs would be gone in about 15 seconds. He released his stance and waved away the thought, ready to talk. The man just glared for a minute before spitting in the direction. I'd rather die. Suit yourself. I'll finish you here and the next group that comes after me will give me answers. Don't want to kill any more people right now. Wasn't the fat man enough? The stance returned and he disappeared as did the man's right and left leg. With one final motion he reappeared, on one knee, in front of his friends. Sasuke tapped his shoulder. You missed. The blonde stood and smirked as the wind chakra cleaned the blood from the blades. Silly Sasuke, he began to walk towards the nearby river. I never miss. A solid thump from behind told the couple all they needed to know to believe him. Naruto, you've come so far, but at what cost? Naruto caught the wary glances and stopped on the sandy banks. He sighed before flopping down with his hands over his face and groaned. His friends jogged over, thinking that he was hurt. Naruto, are you all right? They each got on a side while he shook his head. Where does it hurt? He stopped and looked at them. Killing is something ninja and assassins do all the time. Why does it bother me like this? He put his head back into his hands. Sasuke and Sakura nodded to each other and the raven-haired spoke. Naruto, he began gently pulled his friend's hands away. Think of it like this. If you didn't do this mission then someone who was not as good as you could have died trying. Naruto's eyes met the Sharingan users. What if Narelle went on this mission? The cerulean eyes grew wide. That's what Kizua always uses on me. This took the couple aback. Kizua. Ooh, right, he's Narelle's older twin search brother. Real good guy, a lot like Kiba. The couple nodded but remained silent as Naruto began to clean his hands before pulling off his jacket. A low whistle. Been working out, Dobe? Naruto turned with a sheepish smile. Just a bit. He turned back and the silence returned before Sakura had to ask. Naruto. Yes, Sakura. That move you used, the one that made you teleport. It was like the fourth Hokages. Where'd you learn that? He turned back with his classic grins. Well, you see, they looked at him, my master. He knew my father and my father's jutsu is an older version of what I did back there. Their mouths hit the floor. Why your father WR as the fourth Hokage? He nodded with the classic smile on his face. The pain became too much, even for him. The memory began to shatter as the agony assaulted his senses and completely destroyed the image. A scream ripped through his chest and he felt his back arch as he tried to writhe to pull himself away from the pain, to no avail. The darkness was welcome, but even there he couldn't escape the agony. He could feel the cold air rush through him as he inhaled slowly. The warm rush as the exhale hit his lips and slowly the world began to return to him. In and out, the memory was still clear in his mind. In and out, there was no pain now, just the dull ache where the agony had left. In and out, focus the mind and return to the group waiting to see your eyes. Slowly he listened to himself and peeled his eyes open a bit and instantly got a sigh of relief. He opened them more to see the figure's white hair and see foam green eyes searching his own for discomfort. He opened his eyes fully and slowly turned his head from side to side. This room, his gaze caught the purple eyes at the other end of the room, it's his room. Isn't it? The twins nodded slowly as they continued their silence. It was agonizing. Phantom slowly sat up and rubbed the back of his neck. What happened? Kizur swallowed hard and Narelle looked off into the wall. Something pretty bad for this reaction. Hey, look at that, you're awake. Have a nice nap, sleeping beauty. I felt the same thing you did the whole time, you know. And you continued to push our luck. Shame upon your soul. We kinda, no, you kinda need to have my memory so we can get this whole thing right side up again. What? Phantom, are you alright? His eyes snapped back to the room to see the deep pools of purple boring into his eyes and carefully studying his expression. Why yeah, I'm fine. What happened? Her expression hardened and she walked out of the room. Narelle. Phantom felt Naruto's pain as he stared at the once again closed door before turning towards Kizur. The white-haired teen swallowed again before taking a breath. Your heart stopped after you went down. He felt his eyes widen. You were medically dead for 7 minutes. His gaze lowered to his hands, lying limp in his lap. They were still like this before. They weren't supposed to have that gentle pulse going through them right now. He was supposed to be dead and he knew who planned it. His thirst for revenge wouldn't be stopped by mercy this time. He was going in for the kill. A large room full of scrolls was empty of people, all but one. Ahsoka moved through the room slowly as his eyes looked up and down the shelves and the walls. Those pictures on the walls were those of his that were alive, the shelves belonged to the unlucky. He walked up to what used to be his favorite picture and slashed a thick red line through it and slid it into one of the shelves. You have failed me, Phantom. He knew his latest best pawn was dead, his doctors told him so. Phantom's heart had stopped beating and his mind was lost forever. Great, he muttered to himself, now I have to find a new toy. The heavy metal door gave one final click as the large locks slid into their place. He was left alone in his room and that's what he wanted. He and Naruto had some unfinished business to attend to with a certain old man. He opened the closet and slid on his gear. Phantom was pleasantly surprised to the way his body recognized the feel of it. Yeah, I love my gear too. Feels good, real good. They turned their eyes to the air vents. Ready to be free. Pretty sure that I'm supposed to ask you that. They shared the smirk and quickly crawled through the vents to the surface. Ahsoka crouched low and raised his katana. His voice was all around him. In the rafters, in the corridors, under his feet, in his mind. It was inescapable as the blonde teen he thought dead zipped back and forth, waiting. Waiting for his chance, a break in the defense, to cut the old man down, but Ahsoka held on. Fighting his grasp on reality as Naruto tried different levels of genjutsu and continuously dodging the deadly senbon that silently traveled to his vitals. He was taken off guard once as Naruto flashed in front of him, blades drawn and eyes blood red. He flashed away, but the kunai didn't. It grazed Ahsoka's left brow and warm liquid flooded his vision. You're supposed to be dead, kid. How are you here? You shouldn't listen to those psycho doctors you have here. He made a tsk noise, they are so unreliable. Ahsoka turned but the voice was, again, untraceable. I should have known that you would be alive. Ahsoka slowly turned and continued to block senbon. We should have increased the dosage while we had the chance, then you would know my power. A dark laugh resounded throughout the darkness. Do you remember how you got to where you are now? It felt like getting hit by a boulder as the blonde slammed him into a wall. A gloved hand tightened around his throat as a cruel smirk crossed Naruto's face. Do you remember what it was like to breathe without gasping with all your might? The hand tightened even more and Ahsoka's pale complexion became tinged with blue as he tried to kick Naruto away. You tried to kill me. Do you know the cost of your betrayal? Ahsoka felt the wind before hitting another wall. He reached for his katana and quickly leapt up to cut Naruto down. Their blades met and strained against each other as their wielders tried to gain ground. Naruto. He looked through his peripheral to see the twins standing in the doorway with Ma standing behind them. All of them were unmoving as their eyes flashed between the two swordsmen. Ahsoka took this small advantage to push Naruto away and slash across his face. The blonde stumbled back into Kix's arms and went down on one knee, clutching his face. Naruto, are you all right? The blonde didn't move but the blood continued to drip. Speak to me, man. Naruto slowly rose to his feet and removed his now heavily bloody hand. Not like you to miss, Ahsoka. His voice was infested with venom as he revealed the oozing gash across from his right brow to his left lower jaw. He flicked his wrist and a kunai headed for Narel's throat was deflected back into a wall. They watched as his demon's eyes glowered with irrepressible rage that caused tendrils of red chakra to swirl about him as his canines and claws grew long. Ahsoka took a step back as Naruto, in his demon cloak, flexed his hands and smirked when he felt the warm sensation as Kyuubi's power healed the gash on his face. How are? What are you? The older man kept backing up, shaking violently as Naruto slowly closed the distance between the two. Do you know the cost of your betrayal? Ahsoka got in a defensive position. There's nothing left to fight. His form flashed and flickered as more chakra surged into his body. The distance got shorter until he vanished altogether. The silence was agonizing as it continued for minutes. Nothing happened until a sickening pop echoed through the room. Ahsoka disappeared in a flume of smoke. A clone. Master took a step forward and placed a hand on the twins' shoulders. Then where is? A throaty growl became an enraged snarl as the red blur cut in front of the trio as a katana was cut clean through. The red blur froze in front of the three, preventing the old man from getting closer. You saw through me that time. Guess I'm not as sly as a fox, kid. Naruto just bared his fangs in response before disappearing again. No one will touch them. Ahsoka's katana disappeared and then reappeared, piercing his stomach as Naruto stood behind, twisting the blade. Kizur, and Narel stood gaping as Ahsoka coughed up blood and fell to the floor, unmoving as a lake of blood surrounded him. Naruto. Narel took a few steps closer to the panting blonde. The cloak slowly dissipated as his eyes, claws, and fangs went back to normal. He looked up at them and they gasped. Naruto lowered his eyes and moaned before gripping his head. This feeling, like being torn in two, I've felt this before but not so severe. Their thoughts were the same now. Kizur walked up to his friend and tipped his friend's head back up. The silver rings are vanishing and reappearing. This can't be good. Naruto's eyes shot open and a scream shredded the air as he doubled over in anguish. Narel and Ma ran forward and Narel dropped to her knees beside her lover as he cried again in obvious suffering. He pitched forward, relying on Kizur to hold him up, and began to scream as his body convulsed when the pain coursed through his body. He fell back this time and started to writhe on the floor. The silver ring faded from one eye. He choked until he coughed up blood. Their voices are muffled, like he was underwater and they were watching from the surface. The world was fading as the fire in his veins grew into lava. A splash on his cheek followed by numerous more forced him to focus. The image was blurred at first and there was a strange noise all around him. It took a while to realize he was still screaming. He stopped suddenly, earning a series of gasps and voices calling to him, and strained his eyes to focus on the fuzzy image above him as more splashes hit his face. The now cleared image shocked him. Narel was weeping above him, tears staining his face and hers as they fell without end. His throat was tightening again and the pain was worse, but Narel, she was more important. Slowly, agonizingly, he raised his hand until it came in contact with her face. She gasped and bore into his eyes. He rubbed the tears away with his thumb and made a sad attempt at shushing her. Her sobbing continued harder now as she clutched at his hand, ready to stop anything that would dare try to take him away. She looked at him with the determination and passion that he remembered so clearly now. He feared nothing but losing her. Her mouth flickered but not a sound seemed to come out as the fire rose from his skull and flooded his being. The pain swelled like an ocean wave as it crashed into his chest and stomach. He clutched at his abdomen as his shoulders rose off the ground and red chakra enveloped him. Narel, Kizur, and Master slowly backed away as their friend's body twitched and squirmed as the red chakra's glow got brighter and took form. A large man quickly took shape and raised the blonde into a headlock. his hands clawed at the red figure's hold as he listened vaguely to the trio. Naruto. Narelle tried to move forward but was jerked back harshly by her brother. Kizur. Let me go, Naruto will die. But the boy shook his head in response. This is his fight, sis. He's got to make it on his own. Anything that we try to do will just get in the way. She glared at him before turning her attention back to the blonde. The second he heard her yell his name, he broke away from Kyuubi's hold. Literally, broke away, the arm hung limp at the demon's side as he watched his container with half-interested eyes. He glanced over to the three onlookers, acknowledging each before pausing on the female. Instincts kicked in and he licked his lips, accompanying the action with a low growl. She took no steps back when he approached like the other human females he had gotten to know over the years. His good arm was reaching for her face when a mass slammed into his shoulder, forcing him into the wall. He winced and opened his eyes. He would have laughed at the irony of the situation if he hadn't been the one in the chokehold. The hand around his neck tightened quickly. Knowing there was no chance of escaping, the fox submitted himself to Naruto. Nobody will touch them. Get it? The fox glared, hand tightened, got it. This time the fox nodded. The hand got too tight and a sickening pop resounded through the room and the red man evaporated and Naruto slumped to the ground moaning. When the three got to him, his hoarse voice barely made a sound as he slumped into MA's arms. Good. Live, free or let me die. His eyes closed with a gasp and he fell into blessed darkness, where the pain of the world disappeared and a select few voices could reach him. My Naruto's eyes were so dull and lifeless as he snapped the strange man's neck. He did it without hesitation. It was so unlike him, to kill so quickly without any thought, like, he knew that the man wouldn't really die. He slumped into Master's arms like a rag doll. His voice was so hoarse when he muttered. Good. Live, free or let me die. His beautiful eyes closed as he went completely limp now. Master sighed as he lifted Naruto and nodded to us. At one sign he vanished in a simple swirl of smoke. Kizur followed in a flash of lightning and I vanished quickly in one of Rosebuds. PACT. Naruto's breathing had become dangerously shallow and raspy when we arrived home. Appearing in the entry room there was a group of students standing idly as they recapped what had happened to the others around them. Many students gasped when we appeared with Naruto unconscious in the arms of their master. Naruto never really was this messed up from any mission except when he shoved somebody out of the way of something. The students all fell into utter silence as they made a pathway to the door. The gazes didn't flicker as the group made their way to the door. Naruto gave a cough, a bit of blood that dribbled down his cheek, making me subconsciously step closer, and Master quickened his pace, heading directly to the emergency room. Kizur, me sister, back at the door, and when I tried to kill him with her glare he shrugged. We're not allowed to enter when the light comes on unless Master allows us, he said while motioning to the sign overhead which was glowing brightly, signaling that the dock was working. I felt ice chill me to my core as my eyes caught the red glow. I wasn't leaving. Time skip, full day. Narelle, you need to go to bed. This isn't healthy, so get to it. I had pulled up a chair and hadn't moved from it since they arrived. Now I was getting grilled by my paranoid search brother. Even though most of the words turned into blah, 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 in my mind at this point I would nod, acknowledging that I at least heard something. The light will turn off and let me enter. Now, it will turn off, now. ... Now. Freaking light. Go out. Kizur watched in fascination as his sister's tense legs would get ready to spring up and then slowly retract into their former position. Narelle heard him sigh and felt him move closer. Don't even think about trying to move me from this chair. He tried anyway, but I gripped the frame firmly, clutching to the plastic for dear life. He sighed again and then tried to pick the whole chair up. I laughed as he bent down to see that my chakra was channeling down to the legs, holding them to the ground. His death glare was at half the usual force when he turned his head upward towards my amused gaze. He continued to stare, trying to break down my momentary insanity when I heard the subtle click. Poor bro. His meager attempt at grabbing me before I bolted through that door was made worse when he fell to the ground because of it. I was going to stay and help him up, but someone else was tugging at my mind, someone weak that has been waiting for me for almost 2 days now. The door closed quietly, strange seeing as I almost broke it off its hinges, but his motionless body caught me off guard. I had been bracing myself for some really bad stuff, but bracing yourself for it and seeing it are two different things. Master caught on to my hesitation and spoke quickly to fill the void. His wounds are mostly internal and all of them were life-threatening. The strange shroud over his mind and that strange split personality is gone, so he remembers everything now, but he trailed off. Master never trails off, no matter how bad it is. He will always tell it to you straight. I snapped myself out of my daze and quickly trotted over to Naruto's cot. He had a mask over his mouth helping him breathe and an IV in his arm pumping something into his arm. Why does he need this? My voice sounded strange, disconnect, like it didn't belong to my body as I motioned to the cord. He is in too much pain to stay conscious for more than 2 minutes. We have to keep a steady supply of morphine to help him cope. When did he wake up last? Did he say anything? I watched his face intently. Normally it would look peaceful when he was sleeping, and judging by the look on it now, he wasn't sleeping. He woke up in the middle of the last surgery and only repeated your name. He cares for you. I feel myself nod. This is obvious. Over the time we've known each other, we knew that something was between us. He said he had a theory that he would like to try. He was right, but that he would let me try whatever I thought it was first. Narelle. I know. I'm whispering now, and Master shook his head. My composure was slipping. More than you know. My composure was cracking in too many places to stop now. I care. The first tear fell slowly, freezing my cheek. About high him too. I was full-blown weeping now. Now search control. None of that stupid, never show your emotions mattered anymore. Naruto, my Naruto, was in pain and there was nothing I could do about it. I wished then that there was some way that I could remove part of his suffering, as if it were a tangible thing, and give it to myself. Anything at all to lessen his burden and be there to help him. An arm around my shoulders startles me. Kizuo had walked in amidst my sobbing and now wraps his other arm around me. He's used this position before. It takes a while, but it hits me. It is a sacrificial stance that Naruto has used for us many times. The target of the attack is stuck and can't do anything to help, but even then the user of this stance wraps their arms around the target and is taking the attack head on in order to protect them. It makes me feel better, but the knowledge that he is using this to tell me that he will shield me just makes even more tears come. I can't speak now as my search brother's instincts kick in as he rocks me gently back and forth, quietly humming lullabies in my ear as he strokes my back. It helps and hurts at the same time. It is what Naruto would do for me when something like this happened to Kizuo. He wouldn't let her go and he wouldn't say anything. Just hold me close. I always tried to distract myself with the mental image that I was on the verge of shattering because a piece of me was missing, and Naruto was the glue that held me together until the final piece was brought up and I was complete again. I felt like that now, only this time the glue and the missing piece had switched roles. He managed to get me into a chair and let me lean against his shoulder as I sopped his shirt in tears. Near midnight KIXURSPOV. I was so glad when sweet Narelle fell asleep few hours ago. She needed it. It was a good way for her to kill time before Naruto woke up and put her mind at ease. Speaking of said blonde, the pained look left his face and now he, as Narelle puts it, looked truly asleep. I know what she means, but I don't normally stop to notice because I don't worry about the guy unless he's in a life-threatening situation, like right now. I sigh deeply as I listen to his heart monitor. It would go steady for about 43 seconds and for the rest of the minute it would be erratic. I listened to the pattern for another 33 minutes before glancing at my sister. She seemed to be thinking even in her sleep, like she was ready to wake up at any time and make sure that Naruto was alright. I stopped his thoughts and just let their relationship run through my mind. They've been dating for a long time now, but at times it seemed to run deeper than just boyfriend-girlfriend. I'm not sure. I felt worried that they might love each other in a way that I would miss my sister too much, but in the way that if something happened to one of them and the other didn't recover. I sat completely still as I ran different possible stories through my head, and the more I thought about them, the more anxious I became for Naruto to wake up. It didn't help that he beyond half dead when we got here and was just barely above half dead now, but if he would just wake up and let Narelle and me know that he's going to get over this. He moved his head to the side. A moan behind me snaps my attention back to Narelle. She was tossing in her sleep like she was having a bad dream that she couldn't escape. I walked briskly over to her and shook her shoulders, causing her to moan again. Narelle, wake up. Her eyes tightened and she slowly blinked them open as she focused on me. She sat up with a confused look in her eyes before her gaze became trained on the last figure in the room. He moved his head again and the monitor pulsed quickly with his struggle for consciousness. Narelle was at his side faster than my shunshin technique. Naruto, can you hear me? She knelt down to his level as his battle continued. Slowly his heart rate returned to normal and his eyes opened a crack. My sister managed a small gasp before she quickly kissed his cheek. Narelle. Kicks your. His voice was strained as he barely managed our names. I nodded to him before stooping down like my sister. How you feelin', bro? He gave a weak smile. I think I'll be ready to get up and go back out tomorrow. Maybe even now. A weak laugh and we knew he would be fine. If could still use his sarcasm then he was alright. Master and his impeccable, I love this word XD, timing shone through once more as the door opened quietly and he stepped in. Naruto turned his head and the smile grew wider. Hey there MA. How ya doin'? Master smiled back as he patted the blonde's head. I'm fine. You should be worried more about yourself. After all you're the one on the hospital cot in the emergency room. POV changed Naruto. His bright eyes widened as he realized where he was. Why am I still in the ER? I thought we finished everything. Actually there was one surgery that we must have you awake for and now that you are we can begin. He pressed a button on the intercom and spoke quickly into it calling for the doctor. Naruto was becoming more alert with the passing time as he nodded in saying that he would go through an awakened surgery. Narelle gripped his arm in a vice-like grip and started shaking her head. No, all of them turned towards her and Master raised an eyebrow. What? You heard me. This sudden boldness wasn't unlike her. When she was in a firm belief about something she was hard to persuade. I said, no. She smiled and cocked her head to go with her attitudinal outburst. Master sighed and put a hand on her shoulders and stepped out of Master mode and into I'm a concerned father figure mode as he did. This is the final surgery and without it Naruto won't make it. Her grip on his arm tightened further making the blonde wince. Thankfully her search brother caught on and slowly pried her hand off and patted it reassuringly. She turned to the wide-eyed blonde and a smile peeled across his face. It's okay sweetie. His hoarse voice both helped and worsened the tension. I've gotten through worse. She didn't move, unconvinced. I'm sure that I can get through this and if you're good maybe you can stay. She moved now to pierce Master with her gaze and he nodded slowly. Both of you actually have to stay. All eyes were on him now. Beckoning him to continue, it's a painful process and having people to distract you while going through the surgery will help. They nodded and the doctor walked in with a nurse pushing his supply cart and then stepping to the side. Naruto held onto Narelle's shaking hand and Kizuna took his other one. They were together on this and would get through it. Naruto cast a glance to the doc, who was sharpening some scalpels. The doctor stepped closer and with a supple motion he slipped the mask on. He helped Naruto out of his shirt and rubbed the area where he would cut. Getting closer with the blade he tossed one last glance to the young, blonde man's eyes, receiving a subtle nod. Naruto winced as the blade nipped his skin and bit his lip as it was dragged across the target of the surgery. Am I scared? He squeezed the hands he held and looked up to MA. The hands squeezed back and held on tight while MA gave a reassuring smile. No, I couldn't fear anything with them at my side. Naruto cried out in anguish as the doctor tried again to remove more of the illusion poison, as they decided to call it, which was injected to create phantom. The two hands in his own tightened as their owners' voices reached his ears. Just a little longer bro. Hang on Naruto. Listen to our voices okay? He nodded slightly as he moaned at the pain as he panted trying to catch his breath again. He wished desperately that Doc would just do it all at once and get it over with, but he knew it would be impossible with the range of the poison in his body. The doctor somehow always seemed to keep his voice so even and smoothed over. These next few will be worse than the first session. Try not to tense your body or we'll have to try again. Naruto opened his eyes and looked up at the four faces watching his own. Why can't I just use morphine? His voice raspy from masseuse. Doc sighed again, understanding laced with frustration. It was the fifth time he asked that question. Because Naruto, the illusion poison, will have an acidic reaction when it comes in contact with the morphine. Thus the result is that we can't give you any morphine. I'm sorry. He put his hand on the blonde's forehead and quickly lowered his tools back to the gaping hole in his side. Kizuna leaned over, blocking Naruto's view of everything else. Ready kid. Do I have a choice? No. Then no. Doc chuckled and another ripping sucking sensation rippled through the blonde's senses and he strained his throat as he tried to arch his back. Kizu and Ma held him down effectively as the young man's screams carried through the room. The trio held down his shoulders while he desperately tried to writhe away from the grips, and his grip on their hands tightened. Narelle knew Ma was right at this moment when she looked into his once calm eyes. They were light with a crazed glow as the pain of the poison leaving his body blinded him. Doc backed off the opening and the screams gurgled into tortured moans as he gasped for air and his hands slowly released theirs. His eyes drooped as he fought the urge to pass out, causing his friends to quickly fight for his attention. Hey bro, don't go out on me, Naruto. Fight it off. Don't give in to it. The heart monitor wasn't going fast enough, causing the doc to get a strange look on his face. Only Master seemed fazed by it, and if it got through to him then it was probably bad. He turned quickly to the blonde who was lying practically motionless now on the metal table, breathing shallow and almost inaudible, and muttered quickly in his ear. Naruto muttered something back and Master turned to the twins, before his eyes fell onto Narelle. He needs you, he whispered. The twins looked at him before nearly choking when the heart monitor stuttered and fell to the dreaded monotone before slowly coming back to its sporadic beat. The tension didn't leave, that was too close. Narelle was gently pushed forward as she reached for his shaking form. He was paler now from blood loss and pain. She knelt down as Doc took advantage of Naruto's adrenaline rush numbness as he kept removing as much of the poison as he could. Hey Kit, she rubbed away his bangs as she used his nickname she gave him, open your pretty little eyes for me, Angel. Slowly he responded to her voice and unraveled his eyelids to focus at her. There you are, sweetheart. Can you hear me okay? He nodded slowly. Narelle, they glanced at him in shock from hearing him speak. Narelle gasped when his eyes darkened quickly to a blood crimson before flashing back to blue. I'm fine, it just hurts a lot and I'm tempted to pass out, but I'm fine. None of them moved as he turned his gaze to Doc, who had turned to gape with the others. Keep going on with surgery, I won't react. They looked at him incredulously, and when the Doc started up again he lived up to what he said, showing no emotion at all. They carried on in silence just like the blonde who bore the pain. Konoha, random part of village, in the evening. I can't believe you beat me in an eating contest. Choji laughed as he barely managed to speak. Liana was clinging to his arm as they walked in sync through the streets. Her smile hadn't left her face since she opened her hotel door and saw him standing there. Well, it wasn't easy, that's for sure. She laughed as Choji turned crimson but turned her expression to one of sadness. I'm gonna miss you when I have to leave again. They entered the park and Choji snapped his attention from the bird's nest to her longing brown eyes. Oh, don't worry. He wrapped his arm around her and squeezed her reassuringly. I'll be right here waiting for you. She smiled and cuddled closer to him. And if you're not, then I'm gonna hunt you down so fast, MPH. She was so caught up in her own world when Choji nailed her with a kiss. She didn't know how to respond, so she didn't move, but when the brown-haired teen moved back a bit she locked her lips with his and their tongues vied for search control as they slipped into the grass pressing against each other. Liana moaned as Choji won the war in their mouth and let him explore her throat as she tightened her grip on his shoulders, pulling him against her tightly. Choji's hands were rubbing and massaging her sides and hips before slowly pulling away for air. They laughed as they panted for their breath. This was right, this was good, and they were meant for each other and no one else. Hospital. Narelle, Kizu, and Ma walked through the darkened hallway trying to wrap their minds around what had happened with Naruto. He just stopped showing emotion and registering pain of any kind. It was unheard of. The two men looked to the lone female. She saw something. Something strange had happened and she was the only one close enough to see it. The only problem was she wasn't talking. Kizu put his hands on the back of his head. Well, the other two looked at him. At least he's going to be okay, right? He cast a look to Master, signaling that he was trying to get information out of their prized interrogations girl. Said girl sighed and ran her hands through her hair, tying it back. Yeah, I guess. She glanced over to her search brother. What brought that on? He paused and looked over at her purple gaze. I dunno. Just been on my mind is all. What about you guys? Master played along. Well, masterfully, haha, I made a funny, looking down and sighing in thought. When he stopped reacting to the pain, Narelle stiffened and their theory of her knowing something was confirmed. I was wondering how it happened. I mean, no average assassin could endure that kind of extremity, so how'd Naruto do it? He sighed again and glanced over. Any answers? Kizu shook his head. Maybe, He pointed his finger in the air. Narelle's presence was enough to make him forget about everything else in the whole wide world, casting devilish look to his sister, everything. But, her, he said, enunciating every word carefully so she got the full feel of his false jabs. She glared back but laughed. You guys are so desperate that you've fallen to a new low. They stayed in character, as she stopped and swayed on hip to the side and pointed an accusing finger at the two, trying to extort information from a girl who's all but perfected that to an art. She laughed again before continuing, fail. The two knew they've been caught and stayed behind, muttering to each other, Kizu about how they should have just asked directly and Master about how he should have taken interrogations class more seriously before recommending it to her. She laughed darkly as she made her way to her angel's room. Epic fail. Time skip 1 week. Naruto dodged 2 more kunai in the training arena and Ma yelled from into the speakers whenever one would graze him, which happened again very soon. Naruto. Come on kid, you aren't given me much to work with. He glared up to the observatory glass windows. Well, excuse me for being in the hospital too long for Doc's orders. Master sighed and turned to Narelle, who was sitting Indian style on the floor near the window sipping tea. Something about her was different, ever since that night when she told them what happened. It was right after she walked out of Naruto's room after she laughed at their attempts to get the information they wanted. She walked right up to Kizu and him and told them flat out what Naruto told her, the fox is no longer a part of me. His power is mine. He turned back to said blonde getting nicked by another kunai before sighing dramatically into the speaker, earning a glare from his student. If that dumb animal's power is yours, then why isn't it showing up? Naruto dodged a succession of 10 blades neatly and Master smiled before flicking on the light saying the team could exit. He watched as the blonde turned before turning himself to see Narelle. Only, it wasn't Narelle. This girl was pale and had dark eyes and hair. She laughed and it was like a blend between 2 voices, Narelle's and a familiar voice with no real name. She made a sign. More than just one use for the stuff, pretty boy, and laughed again before vanishing. Master heard a cry of agony. Turning back, he saw Naruto hit the ground panting as he clutched his side. Eyes widening at the side he clutched, the side that underwent surgery, the side where Doc said there was the most poison. With every heartbeat it subsided. With every bit that it subsided, the world became clear and started to make sense again. Voices murmured above his head, which was swimming with what was probably some painkiller that Doc injected. He opened his eyes and saw the usual threesome standing above him with their anxious gazes fixed on his dazed one. Kizu was always the one to fill the void in strange situations. Hey bro, his voice still seemed muffled and Naruto narrowed his eyes as his brow furrowed in confusion. How are you feeling? It was like Naruto was underground and Kizu was miles above, barely there but audible. He sighed at his pathetic state and swung his legs over the side of the bed and slowly raising his chin to get a better look at his friends. They seemed disheveled and tired and Narelle seemed pale even. Mentally noting that he would have to make it up to them somehow, he put his sentence together slowly. This feeling, it is the poison. He waited before getting a hesitant nod from Narelle, who quickly closed the gap and rested a frosty hand on the weak teen's forehead. Her eyes flashed with worry and stress as Kizu placed 2 firm hands on the boy's shoulders. Forcing him back to the mattress and pillow, the cerulean stare glazed over the moment his head returned to the pillow, bringing everyone's attention to them. It was rare, seeing his eyes like this. They were always so full of life, always, and now they seemed dim. Not like the gaze of one who's been killed, but of one who is asleep while they stare into the empty void of night. It sent shivers down the group's spines with its strange unearthly existence. Narelle exhaled loudly and smiled as a strange sound echoed through the tense room with the resemblance to a witch's incantations. Naruto began to breathe in shallow spurts as the dimmed eyes registered pain as he clutched at his side with one hand, the other trying to break the steel support beam it had found. Ma grabbed the young man's face and tried to shake him out of it, and slowly his arms relaxed and his eyelids drooped over the sleeping gaze of the blonde. Konoha past midnight. Sasuke woke trembling as the nightmare he'd endured replayed itself over and over again in his mind. Slowly he sat up and glanced warily around the room. Waiting for the enchantress to walk from the shadows and pull him close with her potions and mutterings, when she didn't show herself he managed to convince himself it was a figment of his tired mind. He attempted to shake its grasp from his mind, but it held tightly. He searched through the play to find where its grasp lay, and what he found had him trembling again. The enchantress was smiling seductively, dangerously. She motioned with her finger to his side below the ribs. Looking there, he saw a strange mark that he had never remembered receiving. It looked like his flesh had been cut open and stitched back together. When he returned his gaze to the witch, he stiffened. She was closer now and was watching his face intently. Her cool fingers brushed his cheek as half of her body began to change. The black hair turned to a warm brown and the dark black pits that were her eyes became a deep purple. Her skin tone got darker and facial expression changed also. One side was dark, seductive, and dangerous while the other looked sad, broken, angelic. The strange woman stepped forward. "Stay with me, Naruto." He saw his reflection in her lustful eye and took several steps back. He was looking through Naruto's eyes, and the question is, was this vision one of the past or the future? He felt a strange pain and looked down to his chest. She was slowly sliding a sword into him, and every half an inch it went in she would twist. Suddenly he was on the other side. Watching this terrible act be done to the boy he thought of as a brother. He tried to yell but couldn't hear a word. He tried to go to Naruto, but his feet wouldn't obey. The worst part was, Naruto didn't do anything. He just stood there taking the blade that was piercing his body. Blood began to pour out of the now gaping wound, and slowly she got all the way through, and Naruto fell to the ground and shattered like glass. He couldn't fall back to sleep with this running through his mind. Every second it passed through his mind, another shudder went through his body, and he would refresh his worry for his friend. PACT. Time lapse 2 months. By the time Kix's kunai reached the spot where the blonde was standing, he had disappeared. Kizuo sent out his chakra in a pulsing wave, trying to track his lost opponent. When receiving no signal of chakra, he pushed it one step farther and used his chakra to search for a heartbeat. Turning on his heels, he managed to bring his hands together on the blade as it was heading for a slash across the back of his neck. The white-haired teen smirked as his confident gaze met the unwavering cerulean blue one. "I see that your speed is pretty much back." The tension through the blade increased as the blonde tried to slit the hands restraining it, "But if you had it all back, then I wouldn't have been able to block that." The blonde didn't move, but slowly a smile adorned his face. Kizuo knew that smile well. It was over. The Naruto he had blocked disappeared in a plume of smoke, and the real one burst up from underground, grabbing his ankles and flooring him to the dirt. Kizuo gritted his teeth when he felt Naruto's foot press against his spine. "Okay, Kizuo." A hand gripped Kix's shoulder and pulled him up to a standing position. "You lost." Looking to the blonde teen, he saw his classic smile as he sheathed his sword and patted his friend's shoulder. "Good try though." He dodged a half-hearted swipe from Kizuo as they walked to the exit. "I almost missed that first week out of the hospital when you were slow as dirt and had reflexes of a rock." "Ha ha ha, whatever, Ki." He stopped suddenly and gripped his side as his face went white. Kizuo held his limp body up as he tried to move Naruto towards the table outside the arena where a bench was waiting. After a long workout, the increase of heart rate and blood flow would, in turn, cause the poison to react. They were used to this now. He slowly lowered Naruto into a sitting position at the table where he collapsed with a pained groan. "This doesn't make sense. Why does it still feel like this?" Kizuo sighed and sat down next to the suffering blonde. "Doc did say that it would take a while for the poison to run its course, but this is ridiculous." The door across the room swung open quietly, and Narelle's live form slipped in and slowly made her way to Naruto, eyes widening, causing a strange look on her face, at his frail form. "Naruto, what happened?" "This happens whenever we finish working out with Naruto, sis. Don't let it bug you too much." She was taken aback at her brother's nonchalant answer, but redeemed her composure quickly as she sat close to the blonde teen, stroking his face. His eyes opened immediately with her touch. "You feel okay, Narelle? You've been really cold lately." She paused as a strange light flickered through her eyes, but smiled slowly at him, putting her legs onto his lap and purring seductively. "Why do you ask? Do you want to?" She ignored the two boys' expressions and pulled herself flush against Naruto's body. "Warm me up." The silence didn't sway her as she gazed into his eyes with her lustful glare. Naruto moved slowly as he pried her grip on him off and slid her gently back to the bench before standing. "Let me just go get you a blanket and warm you up." He practically sprinted out of the room, and Kizuo was left gaping at his sister's behavior. She looked over at him and snorted. "What do you want, Kizuo?" She flipped her hair all to one side before turning to the white-haired man again. "You jealous?" His expression turned quickly to one of disgust. "What are you doing, Narelle? This is so unlike you. Torturing Naruto like that and then getting all sick on me. Are you thinking at all? She smiled in a way that made him think of every horror story, movie he had ever seen as she slowly walked her fingers across his shoulders and sliding closer to him. He tried to pull away but she had him locked around the neck, she whispered in his ear. You and your stupid dirtbag sister can't keep me away from him. He snapped his head over to what was his sister, sitting where the brunette was now Taisha. She tried and failed, you didn't even notice it was me and now Naruto is mine. She locked her lips to his, forcing an icy tongue into his mouth. He felt his whole body go numb as she slowly pulled away, letting his ragdoll body collapse to the floor. I'm going to slowly kill Naruto for killing my father. She stood up, walked to the light switch, and clicked it off quickly. Who was your father? It hurt to breathe, let alone talk. He heard the dark witch hiss as her pale body faded into the inky black. For an eternity it was silent until Kizur heard another sound, one that he had been praying that he wouldn't have had to hear at this moment. The door opened and closed as Naruto's footsteps slowly and cautiously entered the room. He tried to yell a warning but his voice was lost to him. Kizur. 3 more steps, short pause, Narelle. 5 more steps, longer pause, where are you guys? This isn't funny. There was a slight breeze and the sound of a loud bang as Naruto slumped against the table where they were sitting and talking like normal just moments ago. His eyes fluttered closed and he fell to the floor next to Kizur, whose eyes grew wide as Taisha picked up her prize and slung him over her shoulder. As for your question, Captain Studley, my father was the leader of the opposing corporation of this one. His eyes widened farther than he thought possible. Naruto killed him to protect you, so in retrospect I should go after you, but that's too cliché. She laughed maniacally as she disappeared in a flash of black and red water, leaving Kizur helpless on the floor, unable to speak or move. Next morning, M.A. was worried 3 of his students missing over a period of 2 days. He rubbed his temples as he entered Naruto and Kix's favored arena lounging room. Flicking on the lights, he was startled to see Kizur on the floor, unmoving. He quickly ran across the room and rolled the young man over in his arms before shaking him awake. He groaned and moved an arm over his eyes before greeting the bright light of the room and looking to Master's expression. He paused for a moment and then went stiff. Leaping to his feet, he looked around the room. She's got Naruto. We've got to go after her now. Master slowly reached over and pushed Kizur onto the bench. Slowly explain what happened. Konoha Ichirakus. Sasuke. Earth to Sasuke. Sasuke. Come in, Sasuke. He snapped his attention to see a feminine hand waving in his face and turned to see his girlfriend watching him closely. Obviously she had been trying to get his attention for a really long time. He looked to the others around him who were all watching with expressions that varied from bored to amused to worried even. He was an Uchiha. Uchihas weren't known to zone out in a public area. Okay, now that we have finally completed the rank mission of get Sasuke's attention, let's move on the sequel of pry the information that is bugging him out. Sakura was standing now and the others joined her as she put her hands on her hips. He tried to smile innocently and her eyes tightened. Oh, don't give me that crap. She grabbed his arm and tugged him along until they all reached the top of Hokage Monument before turning on the hopelessly outnumbered raven-haired boy. He rubbed the back of his neck nervously as Choji and his new girlfriend nudged Shikamaru forward. He looked back and muttered something about all of his friends being hopelessly troublesome before locking his eyes on Sasuke. What's bugging you, Sasuke? Everyone practically fell of the monument. They were all waiting for Shikamaru to just tell everyone standing there what the heck was wrong with him, but instead the genius respects his privacy and asks him. Sasuke visibly stiffened and sighed as he saw that he wouldn't get away from him fast enough. So he did what Naruto never would have done. He sat down and put his head between his hands and sighed. The onlookers had never seen him like this. He was dead tired, tense and jumpy, wouldn't say a word. He had gotten better at the whole talking thing when he started dating Sakura and let go of his revenge issues. Said girl stepped forward and plopped down next to him before putting her hand on his shoulders. He just shook his head violently and swallowed harshly. Before putting his head back into his hands. Shikamaru sighed with frustration. You had a bad dream. The raven-haired boy's head snapped up quickly. It showed you something realistic and terrible about someone you care about. Sasuke winced and shuddered visibly. Now you can't shake off the nightmare at all and it feels like it's slowly eating you away. Everyone just stared at the teen as he fell silent after bluntly putting Sasuke's condition out into the world. Sasuke, Sakura began gently, what did you dream about? He turned to her with wide eyes as he shuddered again as he heard the strange witch's chant in his head. Slowly he told them what he had a vision of, and one by one they all went pale with realization. I think it was a vision of the future. Most of them started up about finding Naruto and stopping the witch, but Sai spoke up for the first time since they had walked out to the monument. In the vision, Sasuke couldn't do anything while she killed Naruto, so that is saying that even if we could find him, that we wouldn't be able to do something. Ino didn't like it but spoke in a whisper. Then what do we do? Sai turned to the Uchiha. Since Sasuke's the one that has been chosen to bear these visions, then we'll have to wait for the next one from him. Said teen's eyes widened immensely, but he regained his composure slowly, and when he spoke he was almost inaudible. If it means knowing what to do for Naruto. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.